You're listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.
Hey, folks, welcome to the Beans and Dice podcast call-in show.
He's Carlos.
He's Rob.
I'm Will.
Will throwing dice.
It didn't work today, folks.
We know how that can lead to trouble.
Yeah, we went back and broke down the video from last week's episode, and the whole drink spilling thing was Will's fault.
No, it was not.
Will had thrown a dice, and I saw it, and I couldn't resist, and I reached for it and knocked over the drink. But anyway, enough dwelling on last week.
No, we're never letting that one go. Your hatred of dice is strong.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, folks, welcome to the Beans and Dice podcast. Today's live call-in show is about bad rulebooks. We're going to talk about rulebooks that are poorly written or stink, or for whatever reason you feel you did not like or enjoy the reading of that rulebook. We want to hear from you on those types of rulebooks, and then also maybe on rulebooks that did impress you, like what makes a good rulebook.
Sure.
That'll be the starter for our conversation.
I don't want to be positive.
All right, Will will take the bad side of that. He'll take the negative, yeah?
That is Will in a nutshell. No, wait, this is Will in a nutshell. Ah, look at me. I'm Will in a nutshell. Help.
Wow.
That was bad.
Wah, wah.
Okay,
Anyway,
we're back. Let's
anyway,
get going.
okay, let's get this thing rolling.
Rule books. So, Robert, what about you and rule books?
You gonna open up those phones right away? You want to give it a minute?
Oh, you know what, William? Hand me that phone over on the desk. I might need that. There's the iPhone right there. Yes, sir.
Well, my opinion on the rule books is going to be a little bit off topic tonight. I think a little bit. Well, although I guess it's part of the topic. We were talking a little bit about before that I wasn't super prepared because I don't read rule books for the most part. I avoid.
You don't read for the most part.
I don't read, for the most part, but I avoid rule books pretty much at all costs. I prefer strongly to have somebody who's played the game before teach me. Of course, that's not always an option, but I do a lot of my gaming that way. I set up the games that I'm going to play by letting people know if we're doing some kind of meetup. I let them know what games I'm interested in, and if they've played it before, I ask them, to either, if I've got a copy, I'll bring it, and they can teach me, or they can bring a copy, or if we're playing at a game shop, we'll try to find a copy there at the shop. But that's my number one way is to have somebody teach the game. Number two is videos. I go on YouTube. I go wherever I can to try to find a video. Sometimes the game maker will put out a video. Sometimes they'll pay somebody to do it. We know those big companies out there on YouTube that do videos paid. And then if nothing else, I will turn to a walkthrough. If I can pull it up on YouTube, see somebody play a couple of rounds of the game, I'll just pull it up and watch them play. A lot of times people doing those videos, those types of videos, will give you a little bit of description of what they're doing or what they're thinking as they play. And so that's really how I learn games, to be honest. I haven't read a rule book in quite a while, and I just tried to read a rule book last week, and I got to page 2. It was late at night, but I fell asleep on page 2 of about 10 pages, and I haven't picked it up since. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to find a video on that and learn it that way. But that's my take on rule books. Yeah.
I enjoy reading rule books. I find it is a relaxing, like that's one of my favorite parts of the hobby is reading rule books. I take them with me.
Yeah.
Take them to bed, enjoy them, as a way to go to sleep, kind of read a book at night.
Yeah.
Instead of reading fiction, I read rules.
Boring.
I've read a lot of rule books in my time. So I feel like this is a good topic. I think lately, rule books have gotten a lot better.
Okay.
Like, gaming wise, right?
Yeah. I think
15
so.
years of gaming or more, we've seen an improvement.
And you've got people now who we didn't pre-plan much of this, but there's people now who write rule books. You can, if you're a game designer, I know you can now reach out to a certain I don't know if it's a website or whatever, but you can go and hire people who will just write the rule book for your game. Or if you've got a rough rule book, there's people out there who just edit rule books.
Yep.
Paul is it Grogan, who does the from over in UK, has a popular channel. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I apologize. I'll look it up here in a minute. But that's one of the things he does. He talks about all the time how he's hired by people just to either revise their rules, rewrite their rule books, or from scratch, he'll get a demo copy of a game, some basic information from the designer or the production company, and then he will just start from scratch and write a rule book. So,
and now you're seeing less and less bad rule books. Well, now I come from the wargaming community. and there's a lot of bad rule books. So I'll start with the big bad of them all. To me, it's Debilis Antiquitatis,
Well,
also known as DBA.
Okay.
Tony Aguilar, if you're out there, you know what I'm talking about. DBA. It's written in in almost like a legalese, right? It's very rough to understand. It's a very movement focused, rank and flank type war game,
sure.
and it makes no sense in my head.
That's saying a lot for the guy who wrote that rule book, or the.
But it was written like in the 80s.
Oh yeah, okay.
Barker is the designer. I think him and his wife, and they call it like Barkerese. Is the language
Okay, yeah, so
of this rule book.
It's a thing,
And they've edited it multiple times, but it's still
Have they rewritten the rules?
yeah. We're like on the 3rd edition, and it's still just horrendous. Like
But is it really a 3rd edition, or is it just change a few things?
they've added some graphical. Before it had no graphical like
IKEA
illustrations.
rules.
Well, no, it was. It would be all graphics. If it was IKEA, but there's like no, like none,
That's
like
right.
all words. Right, so you're trying to imagine in your head different pieces of board movement in your headspace, trying to understand it. It's just it's rough, but thank God for Tony Aguilar out there. Search him up on YouTube, Tony Aguilar. He's huge on DBA. He got me into it. If you ever played DBA, or if you're listening to this and you're aware of DBA, Tony does a great job of walking people through those rules questions.
And I'll watch some of his videos. And just to touch back real quick, Paul Grogan from Gaming Rules is the name of his channel on YouTube, so that makes sense. But yeah, he's one of his big things is he writes and helps people with rule books. So, but yeah, it's definitely a thing. It's in. I mentioned that mostly because you mentioned that's becoming, rule books are becoming better, and I think it's because manufacturers and publishers and game designers have realized from the feedback as the hobby has grown that's a common complaint, and that's a common thing that people will say that they won't play a game if they can't get through the rule book, and that can really hurt the sales of a game. I think if word gets around that the Batman game was it Gotham? Yeah, that one was
Beautiful game.
everybody loved that game. Everybody looked at it, and everybody. But then anytime at least anybody asked my opinion, I told them I've heard over and over and over again how bad this rule book is, how hard it is to learn this game, and people just will shy away from it for that reason. They don't want to. And that's a big, robust game, and there's a lot of rules in that game. But still,
They took a 2D game and tried to make it 3D
yeah.
without having 3D components in it. Because you attack from the roof, you attack from here, there was rules for everything.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
isn't that one of the ones that suffered from the IKEA thing, where it was so many icons? Wasn't that one of the issues with
I think there was
The Batman
There was
Gotham?
always a question of if this happens, if A happens, and B happens, then you needed to go. Then this rule applies, and then this happens, then this rule applies. There was so many of those.
That's more what I heard. It was more convoluted. I never tried to get through that one just because I'd heard so much about it before. But yeah, it was a lot of that. There was just so many qualifiers, and there were so many little things. You had to know like everything, or you were just constantly in the rule book. And so until you'd played it 3 or 4 times and kind of learned what a lot of the stuff did or meant, it was a bear to try to learn it all. From what I understood,
It's one of those ones where if you're playing that scenario, just read all the rules for that scenario, finish a scenario, and then move to the next one.
Yeah.
And still, you're not going to know all the rules.
I don't remember there being a whole lot of iconology in that one. I know the board and stuff didn't have a bunch of icons or anything on it, so I'm not sure.
I know recently there was a redo of the Games Workshop Kill Team, right? So
I thought the rules were fine in the beginning, first one.
well, and I'm not talking so much about the rules, like the mechanisms that they chose, but with the redesign of the rule book, William, they went from numbers, right? Some like, we got a call coming in. Beans and Dice Podcast. State your name. Where are you calling from?
I think we lost him.
Hello, caller.
Hello, caller. Beans and Dice.
I think Carlos fat fingered it.
May have had a bad connection there. It looks like they're still there, but if we...
Hang on. Let me try
I don't
this
know if they're
again.
hearing us, but yeah, look, he's going to make a quick change. If you're still there, hold on one sec.
Can you hear us now, caller?
Make sure our settings are correct here.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I think we lost him. Hello,
Guess
caller.
what? The number is back up there, so they can call back.
Hello?
All right, we'll try that one again here. That
All
was
We apologize for that. If you call back in, we'll make sure we got those settings straightened out here. A live show, of course. Things are going to happen.
We're going to fire the engineer.
Here we come again. Same number. Okay.
Beans and Dice
Numbers?
Podcast. State your name. Where are you calling from?
Can you hear me this time, or are you going to hang up on me again?
Oh, it's Mitchell.
It's Mitchell.
We've already fired the phone engineer.
Yeah, well, yeah. So we're on our third one already
Carlos?
over here. Yeah.
Yes.
We're on Carlos number 3 now.
Well, he forgot the phone in the first place.
Oh,
How you doing, Mitchell?
I'm doing all right. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Glad to see that your show that you had wrapped up and it's now giving you some availability for Thursday nights.
Your job show. Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, well, actually, no, this one wasn't related to, I mean, my job is theater, but this was actually on the side.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah.
Cool.
Well, we're talking
yeah.
rule books.
I'm glad
What are
you
you
were calling
talking
again.
about?
Oh, I saw the question, what's the worst rule book? And I'd posted in the Facebook group that I'd played this game this week, and I did not enjoy it. And it just happens to have a horrible rule book.
Oh, yeah.
Dice Forge.
Dice Forge.
Have you guys played Dice Forge?
Wow.
I haven't. I've seen it, and I've heard some pretty mixed reviews on it. Some people really like it, but it just hasn't seemed quite up my alley.
No, it's got dice in it.
If
Yeah,
you
well,
can,
yeah.
go ahead. Well, yes, of course.
Of course.
Go ahead and pull up the rule book on BGG if you don't mind while I explain this. So the concept of Dice Forge, for people who don't know, it's kind of like Mystic Veil but with dice. So you are customizing your 6 die faces, which that concept really intrigued me because I really like Mystic Veil and you're building your own card. The game itself is very repetitive and there's not a lot of depth to it. You pretty much roll your dice and get the resources it shows. With those resources, you either buy a card or you buy a new die face. Wash, rinse,
Right.
repeat
Yep.
10 times. So there wasn't a ton to it for me. So I didn't like it that much. But the rule book was the absolute worst part. So I got to give them props for trying. Basically, the way that they set it up is like the game box, the insert is like, how do I explain this? It's like whenever you store it, it's like they're already in the certain areas they need to be to play the game. So it's easy setup, right? But the problem is the explanation of where everything goes is horrible. I don't know if you guys have the rule book up, but it's like one of those things, almost like IKEA or something, where it's like they try to unfold everything and show you layer by layer, but it's just a picture. There's not really an explanation of what's what. You can't see the whole thing. And then like later they'll say, draw something from the, I don't know, I think it's called like the foundation or the sanctuary. And then you have to go and like look at this diagram to know, okay, what is the sanctuary? Because it's mentioned like one time in the whole rule book in this diagram and nowhere in the components. So there's that. The second thing is the rule book, whenever it's all folded up, it's like a standard size, maybe, I don't know, 12 inches by 12 inches. And it's like 4 pages. So like front, back. But you open it up and it's like a centerfold in a magazine. It folds down. So it's not easy to sit there and read. So it's like you're reading, like it's like 2 feet long and you're reading up and down for setup. Then you flip it over and it's this other 2 foot long page for mechanics. And it's just not user friendly. What I usually do before I buy a game, even if I have played it, I said this in the chat a while ago. I don't know if you guys saw, but I cannot play a game more than once without reading the rule book. So either I'm going to read the rule book and learn it, or someone's going to teach it to me, then I'm going to go home and read the rule book before I play it again. So I tried to read the Dice Forge rule book online, and it's just so not user friendly. Whenever you pull it up on BGG, with it being in that format, it's like you have to zoom in so much to see the text because the pages are so long. So I think that's probably the worst example of a rule book I've ever come across.
Ever.
Ever.
Big words. Is it a square rule book
Yeah.
in shape? Is that what it is?
It is a square, but like I said, it folds down into a rectangle.
A
Like a
vertical,
really long
like
rectangle.
a portrait.
Oh,
Yes.
That's horrible.
gotcha.
Wow,
Yeah.
looks nice.
So
when
like you
it's all
can't just
packed in there
comfortably
like that,
sit
yeah.
down and peruse it, you know? You have to like have a table set up or something.
Yeah, that brings up a point about rule books that I didn't even consider. The rule books that they make to fit inside of the box exactly. So
Yeah.
like Small World is an example, right? Where it's just a big square the size of the box. That's just bad. Like, because it's not a normal 8.5 by 11 size. Holding it is awkward, right? When folding it open makes it huge. Yeah, the shape and the size of the book is something to consider when we think about bad rule books.
Well, what about when you go to open up a game in the rule book is the size of the box, but it really doesn't need to be that big. It really can just be a standard sheet of standard 8x11 sheet of piece of paper, maybe printed on both sides, and maybe just 3 pages total. But yet it's this giant square.
Sounds like what Dice Forge is.
Or
it's bigger than it needs to be.
Or
much,
it's like a cheap cardboard insert.
They just want to keep it on one page or something.
Right,
so,
but if you're gonna print,
I
a
would
rule
much
book
rather
on,
flip through
if you're gonna print a rule book on a cheap cardboard insert, make it small, I would say print 4 copies so you can be like, here, you're a player, here you go. So if you question the rules, you got them right in front of you. Especially if the rules are easy.
And that's not as bad. If it's cardboard, at least you can hold it up. But when you have this huge thing, I would rather have to flip through more pages, but be able to actually hold it and sit down and read it. By comparison, I'm not saying this is the best rulebook ever, but another game I just played, I bought it after Gen Con, was Red Cathedral. And so that's a smaller sized box. It's, I don't know, maybe 6 by 8, something like that. I'm estimating. And so, of course, the rulebook has to be smaller. But it's one of those things, I can hold it in one hand and read it, use my other hand to flip the page, and it's just a more enjoyable reading experience. I'm reading a book as opposed to a huge blueprint that I have to unfold and make sure it's staying straight so that I can actually read what's going on.
And take it with you anywhere you want. Right? That whole awkward size for me makes it so that I can't just take it with me to the doctor's office to read in the waiting room.
Yeah.
While people are looking what is he reading over there?
Right.
Yeah, that's a little extreme. If I were to read it in public, I would just pull it up on BGG, but I guess you and I are a little bit different.
He needs to hold the physical
paper. He's a physical kind of guy.
Okay, so I am I get it. You can download the rules and read them on a tablet or a phone, right? But when it's game time, my brain doesn't connect where I read the rule on the digital side with where it is in the rule book. So when it's time to reference the rule book,
back to it.
I don't have that connection to that page. So I feel I always feel like I have to read the actual rules. So when it's time to reference a page, I kind of know it's in the middle, it's in the front, it's in the back. My brain doesn't reference that on digital. Do you have that problem, Mitchell?
Yeah, I get
Are you
that,
crazy? Is what he's saying.
I feel the pros out. Am I crazy like you? No, I get that. I get it. I think it's almost like a tactile thing. It was on the bottom left-hand side of an odd number page, that kind of thing.
And
I get that.
It's just funny how different people learn because, again, you do that with the rule book, but I'm just the same with videos. And I remember, and it's funny because I'll be sitting at a table and somebody will do a rule wrong, and I'll be like, no. Rodney said in the 15th minute of his video, that's not how you do that, actually. It's the other way around. And then people will look at me like, hold on, you remember that was in the...
Rob's got YouTube timestamps in his
my
head.
brain. Yeah. So... Anyway,
but now I do think that the digital rule book, like I said, has more pros than cons. Because, for example, let's say we run into a situation that we don't remember exactly, or we don't know how to resolve the issues. Well, we divide and conquer. We all pull it up on our phones, and rather than one person searching the whole rule book, we can get it resolved within a minute and keep on gaming. I like having those at the fingertips for that, as opposed to us all being around this one printed rule book.
Yeah.
You know what's a really easy rules to read? I mean, the rules themselves are kind of challenging, but to find something in the rules, GMT.
Yeah, they do a good
They
job.
put numbers behind they put numbers in front of everything.
Chapter numbers and stuff,
This is all combat. All combat is in 2-4.
Yeah.
So anything you want to do in combat is 2-4. Movement 2-5.
Well, and it's not just that. It's very much, Robert, you and I do insurance and stuff and deal with lawsuits, right?
Yeah.
A lawsuit is lined and paragraphed. Everything has a number.
Even our policies,
right?
Everything's subsection,
right? And that's how a GMT writes their rule book.
Yeah.
Combat is in section 2, and then every paragraph in that section has a number. So you got a 2.1, but then every subsection of each paragraph makes another point. So if I need to find the combat rule on double damage to blue units, it might be 2.1.4a.
Yeah.
Exactly what paragraph it is.
A reference at the beginning of the book or something.
Yeah.
Right.
So
it literally tells you.
Points you to that.
Yeah, exactly.
This is all combat. This is all movement. This is all
The Landex.
This is all whatever.
And when we
you do.
talk online, when we talk online, we can reference a specific line.
Literally, I can say go to rule 2.1 point something, and then you're like, oh, okay, there, I found it. Boom, done.
Yep.
I feel like that's not that hard to accomplish. I wonder why more rule books don't do that. Like,
Yeah, it's very methodical.
Organization.
Yeah, it's methodical. It's organized. It's a way of thinking. I could see how some people
It works
may
really
turn 'em
well
off.
with war games, though. I don't think it works
Yeah.
too well with a lot of other games. It works really well with war and games of conflict. GMT is known for all his historical war gaming and some fantasy, sci-fi. But it's usually war gaming is usually their best forte. So they pretty much corner the market on how to write rules like that.
All right, so Mitchell, you gave us your worst rule book. What would you say was the most enjoyable rule book read?
I don't think I could.
Yeah.
narrow
That's a
it down
Carlos
to
thing.
Yeah, that's a
one.
Carlos thing.
That's a Carlos
He asked
thing.
me that question. I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?"
I guess I'm just maybe more of a negative person. I can point out the negative better than the positive. But I
Yeah.
can tell you maybe some of the things that are characteristic of a good rule book for me.
Okay.
I just kind of said what I said about the size itself, right? Just the physical handling of it. But I really don't like rule books that, I guess kind of what you guys are saying, that don't know how to organize themselves. Like, I cannot stand whenever it references something and it says, this will be explained later, and it's like 10 pages
Oh, yeah.
down the rule book. Because I'm constantly going to have that in the back of my mind. Well, what does this mean?
You can't pay
Why'd you
attention.
mention it if you're not going to explain it yet?
Yeah, I can't pay attention
know,
to everything in between because you're waiting for that other thing to come up. Yeah,
Exactly. And sometimes I'll even flip ahead and go have that explained to me.
I've done
And then
that.
come back.
Yeah.
Like, I want it to be in a logical.
And there's probably a reason that they did that. There was probably a reason they put it over there because you weren't going to understand that until you knew some of the other stuff. But
Exactly.
you're right. You still are compelled to try to jump over there and, oh, hold on, I can do this. I'm going to go figure what that is first and then come back. I've done that for sure.
Oh, you guys are ruining the flow.
Yeah.
Another thing I like. Now, I like every single mechanic to be explained to me in utmost detail, which is why, Rob, I think you're crazy for only watching videos because I don't trust anyone enough to
Yeah.
not leave out every minute detail. Because 99% of the time when somebody teaches me a game, I will find at least one thing. Now, it might be the smallest thing, but that they taught me wrong.
Yeah.
And so the next time we play, like, hey, just so you know, there's this. But
Oh, are you really going to hit him with the actually?
Actually.
You're going to hit him with the
I am
actually?
the king of actually.
Oh, yeah.
And
You
my
did,
game
you
group
did not
knows.
see him at
Just
Gen
like,
Con when we played Windward.
Oh, yeah.
Was he hitting actually
He
to
was
the
sitting next to
demoers?
me, and I was just like, dude, I was like, do you know what's going on? He goes, no, I don't know what's going on. And he started getting upset.
Because they didn't explain it well?
frustrated.
The guy was not explaining anything, and then he actually asked for the rule book like multiple times. And the guy
Wait,
wouldn't-
Mitchell, you asked for the rule book from the demoer?
Well, yeah, the dude wasn't explaining it. He forced me to ask the question.
I looked at him, was like, and then did you eventually get it? Because you started pointing certain things out, and then the guy just left. So I think
The demoer's like,
walk away.
Here, you demo the game.
This is not worth all this. Just leave it right now.
well, he was doing 2 tables, so he walked to the other table, and he left us to our own accord. So he's like,
And then at that point, Mitchell rounds up a crowd and demos the game
well,
himself.
I mean, I did something to Mitchell, and I was like, is that legal? Because it looks like I knocked him out of the game like hardcore. I was like, I don't think that's legal. And we looked it up. It's like, yep, it's legal. But
You killed us in that game.
I
Like,
killed.
you
Yeah, I
really
was like,
jumped ahead.
I did something so catastrophic to all the players in like one move, and it won me the game like three rounds down. Like, there's no way they can ever catch up to me. And I was like, is this correct? Because I feel like I'm breaking the rules. And what basically turned out was the guy explained the rules wrong to everybody, and my dumb luck triggered this awesome move, which followed the rules apparently, and everyone just got screwed. It was just, and it would have been a much more closer game if everyone just got the rules down packed.
Well, I will say, I just found out today that Mitchell will be joining
I was
us
going to segue to that, yeah.
for the Dice Tower retreat in November.
In
So we're
Orlando,
like
yeah.
4 weeks out.
About a month out now. Yeah.
3 to 4 weeks out.
Now you,
So I will finally get to experience Mitchell in
full action, yeah.
Right. I'm waiting. I guess I'll have to prepare for the actually.
Actually, yeah.
you do know, Mitchell, that there's just gaming, man. It's not like Gen Con. It's just straight
This is all gaming.
gaming.
Yeah, this retreat
There's
is
no like
Yeah,
you know.
no, I get that. That sounds awesome.
there's not really any shows or anything. There's a few little things they do.
And when you get the game from the library, it comes with a rule book.
Oh, yeah.
So you can give.
We'll have a look at that. And I was going to segue off of that because you mentioned Red Cathedral. And I mentioned there's a few games that I've seen you posting up about that you need to teach me, and that's one of them I definitely want to learn. And so I'm 99% sure they've got a copy of that there in the library, so we're going to have to set aside some time to pull out Red Cathedral and have you teach us that one.
Yes, and I will explain it in every minute detail.
Awesome.
So you won't miss a single mechanic.
That's what we need.
And I think we're all bunking up, so I'm looking forward to sharing some sleeping space with you.
Carlos loves sleeping with people.
Okay, that's the part you're looking forward to here?
Yeah, he's.
Maybe, I think I might get my own hotel room at that.
I think you heard at gaming conventions I sleep like 2 hours a night, and that's probably half the reason.
Yeah.
It's a little creepy over there.
Have a good night, Mitchell. We'll see you soon, man.
All right.
Thanks for calling.
All right, take it easy.
Bye. That was Mitchell from New Iberia calling in with talking about the rulebook conversation.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I didn't even think about that. The size of the rulebook.
Yeah, that's
being able to hold it, because some of these rulebooks just get so large, it's difficult to hold. Annoying.
Yep.
But that takes, and phone lines open, 813-618-7099. Call in, talk to us about your favorite rulebooks. Maybe I'm crazy. Is it really, am I crazy? Is there anyone else out there that just really enjoys reading rulebooks?
Pretty much hate it. No, that's my least favorite thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's got to be somebody out there. And part of it, I was going to go to the next part for me, is buying the upgraded rulebook.
What?
Oh, yeah, you did.
I do that.
You bought the whole.
Wait. We're talking about a guy who sleeves everything. So
Well, it's not just that, but it's like...
So he basically that's the alternate version of sleeving a rule book.
You get to get magazine covers and sleeve your rule
you
books.
can't sleeve a rulebook.
He gets a hardbound copy. He got the side ultimate.
all the
it's just a
art and
hard.
everything.
It's just a hard cover back. That's all it is. It's literally the same rule book, but in hard cover back. That's it. The same thing.
Yes.
For what? Like $40 more?
But it's the hardback.
It's a complete copy of the rules, is what I keep hearing you say.
Right.
But it's
That's
the
a
whole thing.
game.
It's all of it.
That's a whole game. You just
It's like, hold on, when you bought the game, you didn't get all the rules. Now you have all the rules.
in one very compact, beautifully built place.
Okay. Sure.
Diego's with you, Robert. Diego on the chat says, Rodney is my rulebook.
Oh, yeah. Rodney is. And I know Mitchell touched on that about, your sources. And I try to go to certain people first. So if Rodney's done a video, he's definitely one of them.
What about the rule books that put the QR codes in the pages?
I don't even go online. Like I'm not. I want to read the paper copy.
No.
And
So that's I'm saying, because it's like a two-part thing. Like, it's like, are they just being lazy and didn't write all the rules, or is it because the way they wrote it is so convoluted that they have to make a video for this particular section of the rules?
No, I think they're looking for the customer like Rob.
Right. Yeah.
Where Rob's not going to
read it. Yeah.
He's not going to read it. He just wants to
turn the page, scan.
So the idea is, usually it's one scan, and then that takes you to the whole
that's true,
thing.
yeah.
So if you do that, then the idea behind that is that that's the official rules. And so again, touching on Mitchell's point about just watching some random schmo who might mess some stuff up, if I'm doing it from Rodney or I'm doing it from who the publisher sends me to, I'm pretty comfortable that I'm learning the rules correctly, that they're teaching it to me right. So there have been some games that I've gone and just watched Joe Schmo, somebody I've never seen before, and I have seen mistakes. Actually, when we did Night of the Living Dead, Zombicide, one of the videos I watched on there, I noticed that after we played it the first time, and then I went back and tried to watch a video just to kind of clarify some of the rules, the guy that I watched, I don't remember who it was, but he clearly was making mistakes. And so I was like, oh, yeah, I don't think I'll be back to that guy's side again. So you got to be a little selective about who you choose. And,
well, we got a comment on the board here for you, Rob. Mark Stang says, just an FYI, Red Cathedral is in the Dice Tower Library.
Hey, Mark. And I just met Mark online this week. So that's very cool in the chat for the retreat.
You should ask these folks if what game they want to play with you guys.
Oh, well, yeah. So we're definitely going to play some games, and we're bringing a group of us. There's going to be about 6 or 7 of us from our Tampa group here, and so we've got some games scheduled that we're definitely going to be playing. But yeah, Carlos and I definitely want to play games with other people as well. So if there's anybody out there who wants to play with us, who's going to be at the retreat, definitely let us know.
If you like me yelling at you, play a game with me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. You can get the full William effect over there. So
dice and all.
Yeah. Very cool. But yeah, thanks for chiming in, Mark.
Yeah, I don't feel bad about buying the hardcover rule books. I'm sorry.
We know. You're weird. You're so weird.
Well, it's not that I'm weird. It's just that it's nice. Like, it feels good in your hand. You can carry it. Twilight Imperium. My English is not good looking tonight.
TI4. Short.
TI4.
Yeah.
I bought the hardback rule, and it's a second set of rules, right? Because Mitchell talked about how him and his friends, they all pull up the app and search the rules together or the phone. right? Well, I'm sorry, Mitchell. I don't have friends like you. My friends all just like they just don't participate in that part of it.
Yeah.
So I feel like I have to go pull up the rule books. But when I have TI4, that means there's 2 copies of the rules floating around. With Scythe, there's 2 copies of the rules floating around because I did buy the extra copy. I'm one that if the original rule book is errated or updated.
Yeah.
Right. I'll give you an example. I was going to talk about like bad rule books. Bad rule book behind Sekigahara is a game called Heroes of Stalingrad and Heroes of Normandy. Heroes of Normandy by Flying Pig or some. I can't remember the name of it.
Devil Pig?
Devil Pig. They're a French company, and I feel like they literally just dropped the entire like rule book into like a Google Translate. It was terrible set of rules, the way they wrote it. I have printed out that rule book because they've updated it so many times.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, I've printed this rule book out so many times because they've errated it over and over and over again.
And again, that was well publicized. I mean, the people talked about that for years about how the rules were so bad, and they redid them. And then I know, again, you mentioned that you had rebought it to try to just because of the updated rules, and the updated rules that you bought were not that much better from from the original.
Literally the copy behind Robert, another copy, Heroes of Stalingrad was the most recent version of it, which was supposed to be
It's not even open.
affixed for the rule book. Because when I went online, I found out that this rule book had problems. Like I'm done. I'm done. You got me once, fool me once, shame on you.
Oh my God, this thing's heavy.
It's heavy. It's a lot
Fool
of
me
cardboard.
twice, shame on me.
Oh, it looks pretty cool.
Oh, it is. It's World War II, set in Normandy and set in the Eastern Front.
Stalingrad?
Stalingrad. It's really good war and light. So
No, it's not.
Not physically.
not physically light, but rules light. Except for the rules,
Are you
they
sure?
messed it all up.
Maybe the rules are too light.
And I guess because when I read the rules, I can't grok it in my head while I'm reading. If I can't understand how to play the game by reading the rules, you did not write them well enough. Diego talks about, I feel like player aids should be a requirement.
Yeah.
Wayne confirms yes. If a player aid does not come with the game, I print one from BGG.
Yeah.
Wayne and Diego, it's the esoteric order
There you
of
go. I was gonna
gamers.
say, I know you know the place where you print those things out. Yeah.
He's a guy out of, I think he's, where was Lord of the Rings films? What was that? New Zealand.
Oh, New Zealand. Yeah.
The guy from New Zealand, he creates his own aids, like player aids, and puts them on BGG as well as his website. And if there's a player aid on there, go and print it. Esoteric Order of Gamers. Rob's pulling up the website now, so I can share it with you all. This is where I go and I print all of my player aids for games. He is so detailed in his player aids creation. It's legit. It's the best place to go.
Sound like your best friend.
Yep, I print them. I laminate them. I print one for every player. Every player gets them laminated, put into the box. Makes everything so much easier to learn the game.
Oh, he's got all these different games on here. Tired to the Underdark, Dune Imperium, Project Elite. So, yeah, just tons of games.
He's got Dune Imperium. Click on Dune Imperium. Let's take a look at. Let's show the folks what that looks like. This is one of the players. Folks, phone lines open 813-618-7099.
Imperium.
That's Imperium. I clicked on it, but I clicked on the wrong one.
that
Imperium,
one.
So that's the game you've been talking about.
Well, that's one of the ones I was going to talk about today with a bad rule
yeah,
book.
Yeah. So I clicked on the wrong one, but
He went through that one? Ugh.
yeah, this one's an article on it. It looks like, but yeah.
And there's a rules summary. So there's the Imperium rules summary. He provides. Click on that. It's going to be gorgeous. You'll see. He just does a great job with his, and he gives you printing instructions, right? So like how to print me, right? And then you can print it, cut it out, laminate them, and boom, you've upgraded your rule book.
Wow, very cool.
Or you just got correct rules.
Yeah, he'll also update to follow the erratas. He'll make sure they're updated. Now, Imperium is one of the ones I was going to talk about. I guess I'm hogging the time right now, but
Yeah, go ahead.
You brought up Imperium.
Yeah.
Imperium is another bad rule book. And the reason it's a bad rule book is because it just doesn't come with any visual representation of what you're doing. It's a deck builder. So all of the backs of the cards are the same because you're building a deck.
Right. You don't want them to stand out.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want them to stand out. But there's like 7 or 8 different types of cards in the game that you have to combine, almost like Paleo, right? Where Paleo has
Shuffle them.
a bunch of different types of cards that you're shuffling together, but the backs, are not going to be very different. But it doesn't show you picture-wise what you're looking for or how to set it up, and you kind of got to get it in your headspace, I struggled with it. I put it down. I played like
Really?
2 solo games of it, and I figured one day Robert and I will sit and go through it together
Sure.
and maybe figure that one out, because I keep hearing such great things about Imperium.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it, but I've heard, like you've said, that it is difficult to learn, it's difficult to get into. Yeah. Here's the Dune Imperium, so very similar, just some kind of straight to the point, getting right to the game and step-by-step reference here.
What about you, William?
Rule books, huh? Well, like I already told you about GMT, I like their rules. They can still be very complicated, because there's, when you have like any kind of war game, there's always, if I move a unit this way and I move the unit this way, it's just a lot more to remember. But what's good about that game is they give you have a rule book, but then they have a player's aid, which is usually the size of the box. Like Sekigahara, there's a player aid about the size of the box, and it's double-sided. So each player's got one. So you flip it over when it's your turn, your actions. You got one whole section for your actions.
Yeah.
So when it's not your turn, it's the other player's turn. You got all your reactions.
Yeah.
So you got a quick reference aid for the 2 sides of each player's turn, real quick. So I like that, and they do it for just about all of their games. All of their war games is exactly like that. They give you 2
Little player aids. Yeah.
If there's multiple players, and they give you more. But I think I struggle a little bit, because there's a little bit to remember. But once you get a table and you realize, oh, okay, what can I do? Oh, right here. This is my 4 things. This is what these 4 things could do. Boom. And this is what, usually I'm playing against Carlos. This is what Carlos can do. I know what his reactions are. So you know what the, kind of like the rock, paper, scissors kind of mechanic that usually is in that game.
Yeah, it could definitely speed up the playtime of the game,
Right.
too, because you're not trying to figure out, all right, what can I do here? You got a little thing, like, I can't do that, can't do that, can't do that. Okay, my turn's done, I pass. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So bad rule books, I had to kind of agree with Mitchell. I hate the fact that when you get a rule book that's this giant rule book in this box that is just big, but everything is small inside in the game box, why can't it just be almost pocket size?
Well,
Just there's no sense to print the rule book the same size as the box when it doesn't really need to be.
And I get the idea behind it, right? So like components jostling around
that's exactly what I
inside
was
the
gonna
box.
say. Yeah.
And
But we have inserts now that kind of like keep everything in place. But
Yeah.
yet you still see companies print the rule book.
Usually
the
that
size
rule
of
book
the
lays
box.
on top. It's usually the last thing to go in the box. You put all your junk in, then you put the rule book on top. But I could see if you're shaking it around, that rule book's bouncing around, hitting the edges.
corners are getting bent and people are
Yeah.
getting upset.
Right.
Yeah, a little bit.
But if you know the game so well enough, you just tuck the rule book on the bottom of the box. You underneath the insert, you just don't even use it anymore.
You're a tucker.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I would say
Oh, we got a call coming in. Let's take a look here. Beans and Dice Podcast. State your name. Where are you calling from?
I did not even hear that.
Hello, gentlemen. Good evening. This is Nick from Wesley Chapel.
Hey, Nick from Wesley Chapel. How
Hello,
are you?
Nick.
Yeah, actually in Wesley Chapel this week.
Ah, nice. Not from Maryland this week.
That's right.
Oh, you made it back. I'm surprised.
We're talking about bad rule books. What do you want to talk about?
Uh-oh, here we go.
Yeah, no. I was listening out. I'm actually sitting here looking for a rule book that does this particular thing, but I couldn't find one. So if anyone in the comments knows, but I've noticed sometimes rule books will present you with just the basic, like here's the turn structure, here's the setup, here's the components, and then they'll actually tell you, okay, now start playing. Right? Like you're only like
Oh, yeah.
6 pages. You're only like 6 pages into the rule book, and the rule book says start playing. Take your first turn. Don't even worry about the other 16 pages.
Learn as you go. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of thing. And I always want that to be like I know I just encountered this as I was trying to go through my games here that I was like, oh, what did I just play? I always want that to be the way it really works, but what I find myself doing is I just go ahead and finish reading the rule book anyways, right? I'm like, I almost don't believe the rule book when it tells me to just start playing because I don't know what I'm missing. I don't know, like, oh, well, what's on the next page? So I don't know if you guys have hit that before.
No, I know there's a
rule book where
few
it tells-
games that.
it tells you like halfway through.
Yeah, definitely some few games I've played. I think Charterstone does that. It kind of starts you out and then
Jaws
it
of the Lion.
kinda tells you. Jaws of the Lion does that. Yeah, you're reading a
So
section
you're
at a
talking about
time.
legacy almost kind of games.
Yeah,
But
Jaws
not
of the
even
Lion's
just
not so
legacy
much, yeah.
games.
What about games that usually say they teach you the basic rules and they say here's a prologue mission, play that, and then they teach you the rest of the rules afterwards? I play some games like that. Usually it's like
I'm struggling to think of one, but there was one I recently read like that.
Or kind of get you on your way. And then some rules teach you a basic rules set, and then they add on. And actually, one that jumps to mind is what's the World War II tile laying when Normandy. It's got
Not Heroes of Normandy, but it is
behind you. What is that one called?
Undaunted. Undaunted Normandy.
So that one teaches you some new. I mean, it teaches you how to play the game with the basics, but then there's advanced cards in there where you start adding like tanks, and you start adding like machine gunners and stuff like that
as you go through it.
And so after you play the first scenario, the second scenario will introduce a new type of card, and then it will there'll be a couple of pages of rules where you learn how that card works, and then you add that in and you play with that one in your second scenario. Your third scenario, you add another card, and so by the time you've gone through the the dozen scenarios or whatever it is, they've taught you every card that's in the deck. But that's kind of along that line that they're kind of bringing you along a little bit at a time, so they're not throwing you into the deep end, teaching you everything all at once. But that kind of brings that to mind.
Yeah, no, that's good. I also do like it when rulebooks say, have the scenarios where it says, like, for your first game, remove this, remove that.
Yeah.
Although, again, I'm always suspicious of what I'm missing. I feel like I'm not a novice gamer. I don't need to dumb it down. Give me the full thing,
Yeah, and I've done that when we've played games here at the house with Carlos. I've said, hey, they've got the beginner rules or they've got the advanced game, and Carlos is like, oh, let's just jump into the advanced game. Like, are you sure? I mean, maybe we play once with the beginner rules.
I kind of disagree.
Yeah,
because you have to understand this hobby is growing fast.
Yeah.
So what if that's that person's first game, second game, or just third game?
Yeah.
They're gonna want those rules in baby steps.
Oh, for some people, yeah, for sure.
So they have to write the rule book like that.
Yeah.
Because they just it's just like, oh, I'm just gonna write a rule and just assume that everyone who's playing this game is an avid gamer. Done.
Yeah.
So you kind of like kill the market for what you're gonna be doing for a while. So I mean, look at recently how many people started playing board games that were brand new players. Look how many people come to our gaming on Saturdays. We see new faces, people who are just getting the games. Luckily, we all know most of the games, so when we play, we're just kind of like we can show them everything. But if they bought a game,
it makes sense.
If they bought the game off the shelf and took it home and realized, oh, whoa, yeah, what?
Feed it to them in baby steps.
You got to feed it to them a little bit, and it's going to be like that no matter what kind of rule book you see coming out.
Yeah, what'd you think about that, Nick?
No, I would just say I like that. I agree with William there. I like the trend. I mean, the amount of attention that gets put into rule books nowadays, and the audience for them is definitely maturing. Like William was saying, the industry, it just has to. The industry's growing so much, so it is neat. I mean, and here you guys are, content creators hosting a show about a rule book. I mean, so there's a lot of attention.
It's a big topic,
big spotlight, being put on them. Another thing it does, it is kind of a something that makes you question your intention with the game, where some of the reason I don't like doing the baby steps is, to be honest, I don't know how many times I'm going to play a game in a short sequence.
Sure.
Right? And so it's kind of like, I want the whole game right away, so I can know that I played it and kind of take it off the shelf and put it back on my regular shelf.
Sure.
But it is interesting just when you start marketing to folks who it's like, well, your expectation is they're going to play this game a dozen times, 18 times, 24 times, this year or something.
Yeah. Whereas
I just hit my first game of 25 plays on the year. Here we are in mid-October, and I finally played one game 25 times. So it is kind of it's interesting, to see that kind of play out there. And there are other games that take it even further, and they're like basically telling you that you're going to need a practice game or a practice round. I think there was one rule book I saw, I forget what it was, but it basically instructed you to play a whole round, then start over. And they just acknowledged that by the time you finished a whole round, you'll have it down. And then you're probably going to want to start over,
And that's one.
To see like, okay, now I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, one that actually, now you mentioned that, kind of jumps to my mind is when we played Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Carlos played, and we played with my dad and our friend Mike, and when we played season one is almost a mirror image of regular Pandemic, at least when you start out. The first game is exactly, really, pretty much like the regular Pandemic, and then you start opening things and ripping things up and doing different things as you go along. But season 2 had a different, I don't want to spoil anything, but it was kind of a reverse mechanic. And so it told you at the beginning when you played your first game of season 2, it told you, don't jump in and play your first couple of games with this new way of playing and jump right into the campaign. Use the base board, use the base rules, and play once or twice that way so you kind of can understand how this game is working in reverse of what normal Pandemic does. And then once you feel comfortable with those new mechanics, then go ahead and start your campaign, because they didn't obviously want you jumping in, failing miserably, and then having a bad experience. So that kind of jumps to my mind there as kind of an example of what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is almost laughable to then try to explain to someone who's maybe not as deep into the hobby about the need to practice playing a board game before you really play the board game so that you have a good experience. But then again, it makes sense, right? Like if you were to go out and play baseball, Carlos, what would you tell the kid? What would you tell the kid first? You better practice, right?
No, sir. Perfect makes practice. Okay, perfect makes practice.
Well, practice makes perfect.
No, perfect makes practice. That's when we're done practicing. Once you get perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
I love it.
But yeah, and it probably depends a little bit on the people you're playing with too. If you're playing with other people who have played the game, then again, I would say go back to the basic rules, play a light game to introduce the person to it. But if you're all new, I could kind of see, maybe Carlos's idea of let's just jump right into it. None of us have played it before. Let's go ahead, full blown rules. We're all going to struggle through it, equally, and we'll see who can catch on the fastest. But yeah, that could be a little bit of an idea there too. So,
I think my favorite part about doing that, Robert, is when you say, "Hey, let's just all jump in and learn it," and then right after you've learned, like you're playing that one learning game, but when you win is when you say it counted.
Oh yeah,
it's like our maglev game in the lobby. We're just learning.
Exactly. We're just learning.
Just play to learn.
2 3/4 of the way through, and it was clear you were going to win. It's like, oh no, this is an official game now.
Carlos is the only one who does that.
Yeah,
he's the only one who does that. Oh, it's a learning game. I won.
It's not an official game. If I lose, it's a learning game. But if I win, it goes in the books.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, Carlos, we all know you do a lot of learning, so it's all right.
Oh yeah, he's a big learner.
I'm a big. I say it a lot. You gonna learn today.
Last little bit, I know I've been on for a few minutes, but just throwing it out there, it is a change of topic, but I want to point out, I played a new game for the first time while on travel, while up in Maryland.
Oh, cool.
Called Wiz War.
Oh,
Wiz
yes.
War
that's an older one.
8th edition.
It's been around forever.
It's an 80s game. I believe it was originally published in the 80s.
Yeah, and it was so my cousin had a copy of it that he had got actually just a friendly local gaming store for what you would call regular retail price. He said he paid like $30 for it. If you go on Amazon right now and try to find it, it's not available unless you buy it from someone as a collectible for like $170.
$149.99 it says right now on Amazon. Yep.
There you go. Yeah, but it was fun. It is a take that game that I think does take that very well. Like I don't actually take that, but this is just over the top, goofy. You're a bunch of wizards walking around this maze-like structure, trying to steal each other's books and stuff, and it's fun.
Yeah, you're dropping like stones on each other, and
yep. Creating walls or shooting fireballs.
I think Fantasy Flight Games was the last one to publish a version.
I know they did it. Yeah.
So which means it's not in print anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no, that is the version we played. It is the prettier one. The Fantasy Flight one is the prettier one. I mean, at least it looks like a fairly modern-ish board game. It even had minis. It even had little. Each wizard is a little.
Seeing them here. Yep.
I think the original one had like little.
What was the playtime on it? Because it's something as random as not random, but as chaotic. I'll use that word.
Yeah, that's a better word.
Yeah.
Dan's favorite word, chaotic. How fast are the games?
It was fairly quick. I admit ours is a little skewed because we actually were playing during a family gathering. We had people around. We were kind of chit-chatting and stuff.
Because Nick was playing.
It's always skewed when Nick's playing.
Yeah, a little bit.
Look at the side of the box, multiply by 4.
I embrace the chaos, and I tell you, it does it a good job because on your turn you can only do so much. But we probably played an actual playtime in 45 minutes or less, and on our second game, if we had wanted to do a second one after all knowing the rules, it'd be 30 minutes probably. I mean, it is fast and furious. People start dying. If you want to team up on someone, they're going to die. You steal books. It's fun. It was neat. So I just want to throw that out there.
Cool.
Not my normal cup of tea, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, we got some pictures of it here. Looks like the minis are nice. The board is a little plain from what I'm seeing here. I don't have any experience with this one, so like Carlos and William know this one better than I do.
Yeah, it's just a grid board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's literally.
But
Yeah,
it's the
a game of
chaos.
It's a game of chaos.
It's the card play.
It's
the
just-
take that, the cancel this, the whoa.
Oh, so that's skip on past that picture there. We just
I
had,
see.
but,
Those are chest.
Oh, those were chests
okay,
you folded up before they were folded. Got it. Look like a bunch of something else on the
Hey,
table.
y'all are like 12 years old. You know that?
Anyway. Wiz War.
Yeah.
2012 edition, 8th edition, 2012. So, yeah, that one hasn't been out in a little while.
2012 was the 8th edition.
7.1 rating, overall ranking 864 on the BGG. So, cool.
No, thanks for bringing that one up. I've always wanted to play it. I don't know anyone that owns it. It's in my vein. It's in my
Does
wheelhouse.
Dan own it? Dan probably owns it.
And William, I think it'd be
I
in
know.
your wheelhouse because you played a lot of Mage Wars,
Yeah.
right? Am I right? Was that the one, Mage Wars?
I did. And it's still around, apparently.
Yeah, it's Wizard versus Wizard action. That's what this is.
Whiz on whiz.
Wizard on Wizard action.
Oh, and if Barry's out there listening, they're reprinting that.
I heard about that, reprinting Mage Wars.
Right. They're saying that it's actually grown in popularity, but
Do you think they're doing that because Summoner Wars came back out?
no, it's because they have almost 3 to 4 years of content,
Yep.
and they just haven't printed it because they focused on all the other games that Arcane Wonders has done in a while.
Mitchell on the chat board says, quote, chest, quote.
Chests. Those are chests. Yes,
Yeah,
that's what those
yeah.
were.
Oh,
Yeah,
my God.
they look like a little something different, but chest, sure.
Well, Nick, it's always a pleasure to hear from you. I know that you did not get a chance to play in our Blood Bowl league this season, but I wanted to update you. As of last night, my winning streak is over.
Oh,
Oh,
I played against.
Will with a little clap there.
Read between the lines, William. Read between the lines.
I didn't want to ask. I didn't, put you on the spot, among your adoring fans.
I just
admit.
instantly
Chris Nelson was the person that defeated me first. But what's great is Chris Nelson has done nothing but talk about how awesome his upgraded werewolf is. He got a strength trait upgrade. He picked up 3 different skills. And then I broke his head and knocked his armor value down with a casualty.
Amazing.
So now he's got to fire him.
Oh,
So you're going to beat me,
He's got to cut him.
but you're going to remember
Got to pay for it.
So there's my update on the Blood Bowl.
that is one he'll remember. Very good. Oh, yeah, and I don't want to take any more time, but I'll leave you with that. You want to talk about a rule book, then there's the rule systems, right? Like that. I mean,
yeah.
And that might be where I get it
looking at-
from. I've been playing war games
Yeah.
before I played board games, and the rule books are huge, and I love reading them. I just do.
It's an investment, yeah.
In time and energy
Yeah,
and money.
Yeah.
Sitting here looking at a 120-page Blood Bowl rule book. It's actually a book.
Sorry, I threw up a little bit.
look at this thing here. I mean,
Warhammer, yeah. Or Kill Team, I'm saying.
Kill Team 40.
Yeah. Oh, well,
And that's Warhammer Light.
yeah.
yeah, it's light. This is light, actually.
Well, thanks for calling in, Nick. We appreciate you calling, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again hopefully next
man.
week. But I'll see you tomorrow night at Gloomhaven. So hopefully
That's right.
our next to last or maybe last scenario. So, yeah, hopefully we played what we thought was our last scenario last time. It destroyed us. So we're going to give that another go.
We lost so bad. Yep. Here we go. All right. Very good. You guys have a good one.
All right,
Good
you too.
night.
Thanks.
All right, phone lines open again, 813-618-7099. Give us a ring, give
about
us a buzz.
10 minutes left if anybody wants to sneak in before the end of the show.
Yeah, still time to call in, Edmund. Edmund calling it. Edmund, England from, I believe it was Switzerland? It's somewhere over there.
Yeah.
It's somewhere over
Some
there.
over there in the European country.
Coming in a bit late tonight, he says.
Yeah, geography is not my first language.
Oh, Mitchell's telling him it's still time to call in. So, yeah, we got a little bit of time if you want to sneak one in. But I know it's
See,
it's
Mark's
late
got
over
a
there.
point. I'm not the only one. RPG books. I got tons of them over here.
Oh, yeah.
I love just reading them.
Because they have nice, fancy pictures in them.
There's some story and some
There's
other
some story in
things,
it. It's
yeah.
just not all rules.
Yeah.
But it's getting better. Okay, some of the ones that I can't stand.
I will say this: one of the coolest rule books that I read back in the day was the Monsters Manuals back from 3rd edition. Why? Because they had not just rules and the creatures, but it had story. And
Sweden.
Sorry,
So
Edmund.
Edmund confirmed
Yeah, I knew
Sweden.
Switzerland was wrong, but I couldn't remember what it was.
So
I
I would
apologize.
say that. Yeah, I would say all the D&D stuff that has like the cool pictures and some story involved in the background. Those are pretty cool because I'm not reading. I don't feel like I'm reading a rule book. I feel like I'm reading a rule book and then little story behind it. That's it. But I'm still not gonna buy like the exclusive edition for that.
Mitchell coming in on right up my alley here says I don't need backstory in rule books or play examples. Just get to the rules. Just get to the stuff, the meat, the mechanics. What I need to know.
Listen, I don't need another Robert in my life.
Oh no! We're going to double up on you at the Dice Tower retreat. So get ready for
You
it.
guys don't play D&D, so it's
No,
that's
I
why.
do.
That's
I
not
know,
my thing.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I'm with you on just that part. That's
See,
it.
but I guess I'll say it bothers me when I see it in a board game rule book, like Galaxy Trucker.
That's stupid.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's
Schwarzel, yeah.
He seems to do that in his rule books where he has this like, I don't know, this
Yeah.
like side stories going in there.
It's a him thing, yeah.
Right. Like he makes it funny and weird and
In his own weird way.
but it takes me out of the game. Like it takes me out of the rules.
What you're trying to do.
It's
Right.
just tiles. Just putting tiles in a spaceship. I don't need to know about this.
It's his flavor, though. It's kind of he's known for that now. So I mean, it's kind of his thing. If you're reading one of his rule books, you got to expect it. So
What about rules that add flavor text?
Oh, that I'm in for. Edmund says he's currently reading Hadrian's Wall.
oh, cool.
Oh, good luck. There's a lot of icons in that thing.
Good game. Good game.
There's a lot to going on in that game.
Yeah.
Effectively, he's reading an Excel spreadsheet
It's
manual.
Well, yeah, but there's but pictures.
And that's one I had taught to me, Michael Lorenzo. I was not about to read those rules, but I had Michael sit down and teach me how to play it. So yeah, right up my my forte there. Let somebody else teach me. Let somebody else do the work, and then teach me the streamline. Yeah.
Wayne says hello in the chat. And then
Hey,
Mitchell, of course, says flavor text is for the week.
For the week. Yeah, I agree. I don't want flavor text on my cards. I don't want flavor text in my rule book.
This is coming from a guy who plays Terraforming Mars without drafting.
Oh, well, that's
Wow, you're going to hold that against
that's
him.
bad.
Yeah, and he's gonna play in Dice Tower. And we're gonna
at the Dice Tower retreat, we got to get him to play
with the drafting.
with drafting because we got all night. Ain't no rush.
I was just watching Quackalope a couple days ago, and I forget the girl that's on there. She had mentioned she was talking about Terraforming Mars. Shira, that's her name, and she was saying that she was like she made some kind of analogy, and she said it's like playing drawing a blank now.
He's old.
Terraforming Mars without the draft, and she's like, it's just something you just don't do. And I was like, there we go. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Exactly right.
It's just something
You take
yeah.
a whole mechanic out of the game that just wow.
And actually, I played Terraforming Mars at our game day this last weekend, and I always forget that's the long game. I got there for the second half of the game day. I was late because I had a swim meet that I had to go to for the kids in the morning.
Yeah,
so
that was a long game.
yeah, so I only made the half.
We played like 4 games
So it was
while you
about
were playing.
3.5 hours. There was a game of 4 of us, and it was with the draft. That was the very first thing I asked. The two of the other 3 that were playing had only played once before, and then
Yeah.
one of the others had played 4 or 5 times, and I played 10 or more times. But the very first thing I asked is, "Are we doing the draft?" And all 3 of them, oh yeah, definitely the draft. And I was like, okay, good. Even with beginners, the draft is the way to go. So yeah, so that's something me and Mitchell are going to just have to disagree on. So
Wow.
yeah.
Well, I disagree with Carlos on a whole bunch of things.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Like rule books.
Yeah, like the love for rule books. Edmund's provided some feedback on Hadrian's Wall. He says it's really well written with many short examples. He says, my brain must have examples, otherwise I'm lost. I agree with you 100%.
I do like examples.
Like, you need to pause the rules and then give an example of what that means, what that looks like.
Because that's a game where everything combos after a certain amount. So yeah, it needs to give you something like that. That's a big combo-tastic not really rolling right. What do you call that? Flipping right?
Flipping right
game?
flipping fill, flipping right.
Flipping
Yeah.
right from Phil, yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's I haven't played as many flipping rights or rolling rights as some people. I know some people are really big on them, like Michael Lorenzo again. He's just plays them all. but-
Edmund says he's hyped about this one.
Yeah,
He says he's sold a lot of his board games, but he's really hyped about this one.
That's where I was going with that, is that because I saw Edmund's comment there, is that this is a flip and right or a roll and right type of game that feels like a real full board game. It's that complex where it takes the most flip and fills or most roll and rights are trying to pare everything down. They're trying to make it quick and light and fast and family. This took the opposite turn on that. This one takes it to an hour and a half game and really
but it
gets
also
deep. So.
involves with other players because there's certain things on there when you do like the military scouting missions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can affect each other.
The markets, the cards themselves. So there's a few things where actually it affects not just it's the player to your left and your right, I believe.
Yeah, you can use things for off cards from the person to your left or your right. You can do things that give things to the person to your left or your right. So yeah, there's definitely some player interaction in this one. This one's one I haven't tried solo. I don't know that I'd want to. I know supposedly the solo experience is still supposed to be pretty good, but this is one I definitely would want to play with 3 or 4 people. So
let's make this one of the get to the tables
Yeah.
for Dice Tower Retreat.
if not before, yeah, for sure.
I'll bring my copy so we can say we've officially played my copy.
Okay, yeah.
And we'll get Edmund in on it. Mitchell. We'll
Mitchell.
get Mitchell in on it.
Yeah.
Mitchell says, I am a game hoarder because Edmund's talking about having sold his
A
games.
little bit of a purge, yeah.
Yeah, Mitchell says he's good with letting the box sit on a shelf that he knows he will never play again.
I got that way till I got to about 120 games, and then just the space issue. We talked a little bit about that last week, but there is a point for most people where you run out of space, but you got to have that next game, and you got to get that next fix. And when you do, you got to make that big decision that all of us go through, I think, at some point about letting some of those games go and purging. But I felt the same way forever. For 4, 5, 6 years at least, any game I bought, I was convinced it was going to be in my collection forever. But at some point, you got to kind of let that go. And Edmund mentioned that it's a good feeling. Maybe it's the first time he's done it, but it is a little bit just kind of, I
It's cathartic.
cleared some space, got rid of some stuff I'm just not going to play. Send it to a good home where somebody else may get some playtime with it. So,
Well, what about like rules that have like so many rules for different players, like Villainous?
Oh, those real asymmetric games.
Yeah.
Like that one's like, oh, well, you have a completely set of rules that are different from me.
Root.
Root's like
there's
that.
some several games that are like that asymmetry.
I think I know that TI4 doesn't come with separate rules for each player, but when you consider the player mat and the cards and all the differences in there,
Yeah.
at the beginning of the game when you get a new faction, you got to take some time and read through
Learn what
your
your
player
abilities
mat,
are.
your player cards to figure out how they synergize. And especially with the Prophecy of Kings now they add the
all those-
second sideboard of agents.
Yeah, all those
and-
extra abilities and things.
Yeah, it's William, you're right. It's like a whole another rule book on top of the rule book just to play that faction. I think Oath would be like that too, right?
I would think.
And Mitchell could chime in on
yeah,
that.
Mitchell would have to be our pro on that one. So, yep.
So yeah, but I mean, if the game's well written,
Well written, yeah. Well written.
Well, Carlos said something funny and that we didn't say.
Oh no, I was going to. I almost called him out, but he kept talking so fast over it, so he just kept going. But
I don't even. English is not my first language.
but it's obviously
Trademark,
it's
beans and dice.
after 10 o'clock now, so now we can't speak anymore. So we're having trouble with our words. So, but on that note,
Yeah, that's gonna bring us out for the show. We're going to wrap up the show for the evening. It's
yeah.
Any other comments we need to reach out there before you do that?
Mitchell says Oath has 2 different rule sets, Chancellor and everyone else.
There you
So
go. Okay.
Games with 2 different. Betrayal Legacy. That's the one I wanted to talk about.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So like the rules of Betrayal
They
Legacy.
keep changing. It's a whole. It's,
Yeah, a little bit.
It's like what?
Yeah,
But
What are
not
we
even
doing
just
now?
Betrayal Legacy, like regular Betrayal. You're gonna have the rules of the book, and then you're gonna have the
Rules of
Trader's
Trader.
Guide, and then the Survivor's Guide. I can't remember what they're called, but the non-traders,
or whatever. Yeah.
right? So you get and then if they don't get it right, we could mess up a whole game.
There was
Oh,
a
yeah.
game where I like stomped you guys because you forgot to do something the whole time. I'm like, I'm not reminding you.
Yeah.
And in fact, there was a rule in my book not to tell you things.
Yeah. Well, that's a legacy game. A legacy game is going to have a little bit of that.
But not even the legacy version. The regular version has
Regular.
that the betrayal, the Trader's
yeah.
Home, and
Yeah.
the Survivor's Manual.
Right, where at some point the game diverges and everybody's each side's playing with a different set of rules from then on. Yep.
Which a misinterpretation there can suck the joy for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
Because now we played a game and end up finding out we played the rules wrong.
Yeah.
Right, or we were going for the wrong mission. And, we're not talking a short 30-minute game. These are hour, 2-hour games.
Yeah.
So that's a thing that can improve. But that was a good conversation on rule books, man. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was cool.
We love doing this. Please comment for us on topics or ideas of things you want to talk about. Right? Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what we can change. Give us feedback. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. That way other people know about it. Share with your friends. Let them know what we're doing here. We're looking to interact with you all. Let us know if you're going to Dice Tower Retreat. I think Mark Stang is going.
Yep,
so we're going to get to meet Mark Stang out there. Mitchell will be out there. So if you're going to Dice Tower Retreat, let us know so we can meet up with you. I got some swag.
Absolutely.
For anyone we meet.
Yep.
We're looking for that Thursday night because we will be out there.
Yep.
I'm currently working on figuring out how to do it on the mobile, right, using my cell phone to do the show live from the retreat.
Show from the retreat. Yeah.
That's my hope, Mitchell, is to get the show live from the retreat. Get a few of us together around the microphone to take your calls and talk about games.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
There's plenty of space. We can do it somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll just check with the Dice Tower folks, make sure there's no issues with them, and then we'll just have to check into that internet from the hotel and make sure that's going to work for us. But yeah, if we get those logistics figured out, that'll be fun.
And I'm Carlos.
I'm Rob.
And I'm William.
And we are the Beans and Dice Podcast. We're a podcast about
how we game.
Thanks for watching, folks. Have a good night. Be safe. We will catch you all on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Beans and Dice Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe.